What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. Hope you guys enjoy last week's stream where we went through some of our top altcoins that we were looking at for the coming week. Some of those trades have ended up playing out quite well. We'll do some updates today. But what I also want to do is go through where Bitcoin is currently sitting, give you guys an update on that, give you an update on Ethereum, and then we're going to get our researchers back in that were here last week to give us some of their top altcoin alpha and plays as well. I know they've researched extensively over the past 24 hours, so they are going to come on the show and give some of their alpha as well. So we're going to keep this up as a regular thing in terms of doing these weekly lives. So we're going to move them to Sunday night, so Sunday morning US, because I think it's a more friendly time for the average person to join in due to work and just the weekends. Obviously, most people have more spare time, so expect these live streams every Sunday from now on. If my internet cuts out, bear with me. I'm in a different location, but hopefully it plays ball today. And we have obviously two of our best researchers here if they need to take over at any point. But it's been okay for the last 20, 30 minutes or so. Just going to say hi to the community here. Crypto Churs, Jerome, Tony. Yeah, we were a little bit delayed. I was trying to sort out my internet issues. I had to get an eSIM to make this work. Lead us to the Holy Grail. Yeah, today we're going to talk about some of the upcoming narratives we're seeing, and I'll give you a bit of an update on Bitcoin and ETH. Someone asked, what are your thoughts on REKT? I think REKT is a great coin. The only issue with REKT, and I actually pointed this out in a tweet. I'll share my screen now. Bear with me because I don't have an external monitor. I shared this in a tweet reply that I did to, I think it was Zeneca. And it was basically that we just don't get any entries to actually buy into this coin. He basically posted this. He said, yeah, it's pretty much up only. And he made a decision to buy. But for me, I'm kind of morally against, or at least my hard rules are that I'm against buying coins after they've pumped massively. And obviously there are times where a coin's just going to go up and you could long and actually make more money. But I typically don't like to buy things at highs. So what I did in this case was I made two ads. I made one ad on this liquidation wick here, and then I made one ad on the first accumulation zone that we had, I think, at the end of May. So these were my only two ads on REKT. And yeah, I didn't get any more entries since then. So it's a bit frustrating because I'd love to own more, but I don't. But just because I don't is not a justification, in my opinion, to break my rules and buy into the top of a pump when, it's probably going to retrace pretty soon, in my opinion. Now, it could keep going up a bit higher and go from 400 mil to 500, 600, 700. But at some point, it'll consolidate, and it's on that next consolidation that you want to buy. This is a pretty rare chart and a bit of an exception in crypto that it just goes up. Even if you look at the useless chart, which has also been equally as strong, and this is one that I called for the first time on the show at 80 mil on one of my Mars High Club AMAs. At 50 mil, it went to 400 mil. Useless actually has given us many, many entries. Like you could see, it ran up, it consolidated. This is where I did my first call down here on the YouTube. It went up, it consolidated. You have another opportunity to bid the next range low. This is a rally-based rally pattern. So rally base, whenever it forms a base, you can add rally base, rally, bigger base, and then rally, and then maybe to form a new base. But this is equally as strong as REKT in terms of price performance, but it actually gave you pullbacks. REKT doesn't give you any pullbacks. It just goes straight up, and that's the only reason why I haven't added. So although I think it's a great coin, fundamentally they're doing a lot. It's what I would call like a real brand coin. Brand coins are coins that, like PENGU, they have real brands behind them. REKT has REKT drinks. I think OSF REKT and the team have done an amazing job. REKT Mando, and an amazing job. They're friends of mine as well. I think it's great when you have a token tied to real products, but yeah, just be mindful of the chart. That's the only thing I would say, even though fundamentally I'm bullish and I do hold some. As Bitman says here, smash the likes if you want more live streams. If you guys like them, we'll keep doing them every week. And I think it's a good format because I can answer questions and yeah, give you guys some exclusive alpha here on the live. Someone asked, what do I think of Bitcoin? Crypto Street asks. I'll give you my Bitcoin analysis now. So I did a video later in the week that I shared that basically I got 1/3 of my ideal entry on Bitcoin, and that I would add more if it goes back down into this red zone here, which is the CME gap between 114 and 115K. Unfortunately for me, because I wanted to stack more Bitcoin, It doesn't look like we're going to go down there, at least in the short term, because we did end up reclaiming the range and we are now on the positive side of the money noodle. Now, of course, we can always shoot downwards and there's a possibility we come back down and tag. Because this level has been broken through a few times now, I think this range low has less significance than it used to. I think the real level that has significance now is 115K. That is still, from a spot perspective, the level I would bid with more size. However, I must say in the short term, just given on the H1 and H4, how the price action is looking, I'm skewing towards the bias that we tag range highs even before we go lower. So my short-term bias is that we go to 120, and then longer term, I think it still is possible that we come up and then come back down at some point to tag this zone. But it obviously depends on our reaction to 120. If it's a hard rejection, then yes, in my opinion, we're going to come back down to 115. If it looks good and price starts to accept above and consolidate above 120, then we're probably going to go higher. So it's a very much if then that situation with Bitcoin. We need to see what happens to price action. My bias, obviously, from a macro perspective, is that it goes a lot higher. I still think we see Bitcoin, at 130, 140, 150K. I think that's going to be a very powerful thing for Ethereum and alts as well, as the catch-up trade, gets even bigger. But in terms of the way I'm playing Bitcoin short-term, I don't really like to do any business in the middle of the range unless it's like a short-term long. So I would still be looking to see how it reacts to 120. So basically, to summarize, I think 120 first, depending on how it reacts to that level, we either actually go for a new all-time high if it looks good, but if we see signs of exhaustion into this zone up here, then I think the next zone actually isn't range low. It's tagging this fair value gap down at 115, and that's also corresponding with the CME gap. So that is my summary on Bitcoin for now. Ethereum is a little different because it actually looks a lot stronger. This major pivot point that I spoke about on last show ended up flipping. That was one of the trade scenarios I gave at 3.67, and now it's up to 3.8. I think it looks really strong, actually. I think Ethereum looks better than Bitcoin. So if you're going to long one, probably long Ethereum. However, I will say that it is heading to significant high time frame resistance at 395 to 4K. So maybe the risk reward of new longs in this zone for ETH isn't so good. Yes, I think it can still fill this gap of liquidity here. If you go back to, the prior times it's attempted 4K, if we go onto the weekly chart, you can see that there still is liquidity to be tapped in that zone. And for that reason, I still think we can push up into this zone as we have, last March, last June, last December. So I still think we're going to tag this zone. But is the risk reward of a trade great into resistance? I mean, just objectively speaking, until the 4K level breaks and holds, it's resistance until proven otherwise. So any ETH longs, just like Bitcoin, are still better done in a significant area of interest. For Bitcoin, it's 115. For ETH, it's 3.5. We were good to get some entries on those last week. I filled 1/3 of my Bitcoin position, not as big as I wanted, but still okay. I filled a small ETH position. That's something I've been sharing in the Discord as well. Paradise has also been sharing his updates in the Discord. He feels similarly to me that we probably go for the 120 zone before we go down, if we go down, because we got the 120 to 121K poor high zone still on the charts there, and you could see this is also exemplified by the POC here. But that's basically what I'm thinking on the Bitcoin side of things. I do have a researcher that I'm going to bring on very shortly, and they have a trade that if Ethereum does go to 4K, is probably a better trade than ETH itself, because I think we are at that stage in the cycle where you do genuinely need to be on the lookout for betas and plays that can outperform. This is something I've been very vocal about over the past week or so, just making sure you're actually in the right assets that are going to outperform. I think that's very important at this stage of the cycle. So these are going to be some good trades, I think. We're going to speak about them and analyze them today. I do want to remind you, we mentioned this on the last stream. I said, get your Bitget accounts ready because we're going to start the trading comp. So I'll remind you again, get your Bitget account ready because now, since that stream, we actually officially made my team, which is the Mars High Club team. But we're opening it up not just to the Discord, to the public. If you do want to join my team, you don't even need to have great trades to win, by the way. If our team does well in general and I'm trading there, the traders in the Discord are trading there, then we can still make a lot of money because there's a $6 million prize pool. So if our team finishes even top 10, everyone in the team gets distributed awards. So even if you're not trading with a lot of size, it's fine. Still join the team. So first link in the description will be to register for Bitget. Once you've registered for Bitget, you'll also get a $20 USDT airdrop, which is very nice. I've negotiated that with Bitget. The second thing you do is click on the second link in the description, and register for the Mars High Club team. It's going to be a link that takes you directly to my team. So step 1, sign up for Bitget, claim your $20 airdrop. And then step 2, go and sign up for the trading competition. Even if you aren't planning on trading, it's still good to join. But we will also give you some setups that I'm personally looking at taking, and I'll be taking in this comp later in the video as well. I'm just going to quickly take a pause here to check if we have any rapid fire questions I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to add some of my researchers here to give some alpha. Could you comment on Syrup, please? Syrup actually looks really good. I'll try and get the chart up. I'm just trying not to make it too much of a mess because I don't have an external monitor. Syrup's been one that we've been talking about a lot. Looks quite strong. Has started to cool down a little bit. So I'll share my screen again. You can see that it basically broke out. There's a big breakout trade here as it reclaimed this diagonal level, 4-hour money noodle, and flipped the prior highs as well, making higher highs. It spiked massively to the upside before now starting to retrace a bit. I do think this was the result of a big short squeeze on the token. What I would wait for is, and I'm just looking right now to see where there's confluence on the money noodle, seems to be 8 hours. So what I'll do with momentum indicators is I'll try and line them up with horizontals and see where there's confluence. There is confluence on, and I'll look at H12 as well. Yeah. 8-hour, 12-hour daily all have a very similar level, and it's this pocket here, this initial breakout zone of 48 cents. So it's clear on the 12-hour. If you look on the daily as well, it's the same pocket. And then if you look at, sorry, the 8 hour is clear as well. And then if you look at the daily, it's also clear. So I would be targeting, I don't think we're going to get a full horizontal retest. I think it's going to stop out slightly shy of that at roughly 48 cents. So if you want to enter spot, that would be the next zone, potentially perps as well. But I don't want to come on here and say that it's a great perp long in that zone because that will depend on the market at the time. The thing about perps trading is it's highly reflexive to the overall market. So that will depend on how Bitcoin's reacting to 120. And it will also depend on how Ethereum looks heading into that resistance. But I will say that's still a spot zone that I would consider bidding as long as there's still confluence with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Looking through some more questions here. Miles, comment on ENA. ENA has been an amazing coin. I had a great trade on that. I actually switched my pump fund for ENA, which I spoke about in the Discord, Telegram, and YouTube. So all platforms. That's what I spoke about on the live stream last week. This was an amazing trade. Obviously, pump absolutely crashed and ENA pumped. So very, very happy I took that trade. But I assume you're asking about an update now and not retroactively. So ENA still looks amazing. I actually closed half of my position last Sunday heading into the week. I don't regret that I did it because I made profits off that spread between pump and the ETH beta. So I locked in some gains. But since then it has kept running. So in an ideal world, I would have kept, more of the trade open. But this is a very clean break now. This is a clean flip. I have 50% of my ENA still open. Very happy about that. I'll continue to hold for the short term. What I would look at on ENA, and this is the same level that's working for a lot of alts right now, is the money noodle on the 4-hour. Money noodle, by the way, is the indicator that we've developed for the Mars High Club. It's a very simple indicator. You can get a similar effect from the 200 or 100 MA, but we have backtested it to slightly tweak the traditional MAs because they don't account for variance, which we've tweaked in the money noodle. That's why I use this noodle, but you can also use 100-day, 200-day MA and look at the levels where there's confluence. 4-hour is the level on the noodle that has a lot of confluence. You can see here, every time we get a retest, it does really well, and it's actually respected trends since we had the weekly breakout. What I'll have to do is I'll look at the high time frame trend like the weekly, then I'll move down the time frames to look to see if there's confluence for a short-term entry. It's also following the similar rally-based rally setup that we saw on Useless. This, after a breakout, is going to be your most powerful tool. So what you want to do, and this is the same for many coins, this is actually alpha for you guys, look at the weekly, see if there's a breakout. Clearly there's been a breakout on this level. Then what you want to do is go down the time frames and see if any bases start to form. So we had a base forming here, money noodle tag. Then we see it going up, another base starting to form, the lows also forming on the noodle. We've got another rally. Now, if we start to cool off here, this would be the next entry zone. Even if it goes up a little bit, comes back down, tags liquidity here, the noodle should also come up to provide some sort of confluence with the range low base and the noodle as well. Just checking that my screen's showing there. So that would be the level that I enter, aka any pullbacks on ENA probably are for buying. Personally, I just wouldn't long at this very second, but I already have 50% of my position open, and actually that's even more now because nominally it's gone up, so it's more like 65% in terms of value of my position still open. So I'm actively exposed to this, so maybe I'm a little pickier in terms of my entries, but yeah, that's what I'm seeing on ENA. what I like to do, guys, the reason I talk a lot about TA is because I like to use a fundamental outlook on the market, and then so make sure the coin has narrative, mind share, and traction, and then I'll move down using TA to work out whether the technicals align with fundamentals. Because at this stage in the market, like late game in terms of the Bitcoin cycle, even though it's still early game in terms of maybe the shorter micro altcoin season, you can't be too greedy with taking on risk. So the reason I use technicals is so I have very clear invalidations on my trades. Otherwise, what you get into a scenario of is like longing coins after big pumps, and then they can retrace a lot, and then you don't have any tangible levels to get stopped out at. In 2023, it was different because we're just in like bear market accumulation mode. If you're accumulating throughout the bear market, then you're in a very different situation. You're just trying to build exposure, so you have the rough exposure for the bull. We're at a different stage in the cycle now, and that's why I'm trading slightly differently. I see Pyro agrees here. What the hell is the noodle? What the hell is the noodle? I just explained it's just a moving average we've tweaked, but you could use 100 or 200 AMA, just see where it actually respects. The big thing with the noodle is actually where it respects trend. So many good utility plays out there, 100%. I think right now it's definitely ETH and ETH utility season. One of my researchers who's going to be joining is going to speak about some of his top picks there. I definitely, or the top plays there, I definitely think that is the meta right now. So coins like Fluid, ENA that I've discussed recently, they should continue to outperform. Even, look at the RWA plays like Syrup, it's starting to come down now. I'd enter that if we get, the right pullback. And, here's a bit of advice I'd like to give you guys. Everyone's asking me about REKT and, useless coins that have pumped a lot, but not every coin in the market just goes up only. Even a coin like Syrup, ENA, they've given big pullbacks. ENA gave a huge pullback last Monday. Now, useless is starting to give a pullback now, but something like Fluid also gave a big pullback after a big pump. So although you might look at a coin like REKT or PENGU and be like, damn, it's up. Actually, PENGU gave a good entry last Monday. We spoke about it on the live stream if you're subscribed to the channel. If not, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because Paradise and I actually was last Tuesday, gave it the perfect entry for PENGU, which was a coin everyone was saying, was going up only. And then we actually got a good entry on a pullback. So the advice I'd give is don't chase pumps. There's probably 10 coins that fundamentally currently fit the meta of the market. Don't, chase all of them. Just pick the two that actually look good technically, because there are so many, I would say there are 5 to 10 coins, maybe even 15 right now that are fundamentally very, very solid in the current market. All you need to do is wait for one of those coins to give you the right technical entry, instead of trying to force it on one of the coins that is in that list that doesn't have the right technical entry. And that's pretty much how I'm playing the market right now, looking for narrative alignment and then looking for technical or price action alignment to justify entering that narrative. That's basically how I'm playing the market right now. Let's actually look at PENGU just a little bit, because I think the token looks good. Yeah, I mean, this is the level that I actually bidded, and we were public about this in the YouTube stream last week. This level here gave you a few days to get an entry, or roughly, day and a half, depending, maybe you get your first entry on the second retest of the base. This is rally-based rally again. I know I'm talking about it again, and Paradise talks about it a lot, but it's so powerful. Once you have a high time frame breakout like PENGU, right? Let's establish the breakout level. Same thing as ENA is going through now. This is your breakout level, right? As soon as it breaks, then you move down the time frames. We go to 4 hourly. We see that it's respecting trend, and it creates these rallies, it forms a base, it rallies, it formed a longer base, rallies, formed a base. And once a base holds, basically all you need to do is bid the next retest of the base. So it rallied, so you might have thought, oh, I missed it, but actually it comes back down, gives you a clean retest, captures untapped liquidity, and then goes on the next leg. So you want to see probably another 4 hourly money noodle tag for your next entry on PENGU. But I'm just trying to give you some education behind why we actually longed PENGU on Tuesday, instead of saying, I longed PENGU, you didn't. Because, I actually want to give you the real playbook, because I'm not always going to be here every day to teach you, but there might be in 2 days a great entry on one of the coins we speak about today, even if it's not right now. So I think people, need to just have a little bit of patience and also combine that with a strategy. And if you can do that, you'll go a long way in the market. Is there any hope for pump? I actually think there could be, just purely based on the fact that it's really oversold. They do have an incentives program coming. It's kind of, debatable whether this will be bullish or bearish for the token, because incentives means new supply coming onto the market. Are people going to dump? Or is it good because it gets more hype for the token? We'll see. It's not a trade I'm taking, just because I want to see a clear trend established. And if we actually chart the token, pump should still be in my watch list because it's something worth monitoring nonetheless. You can see it actually hasn't flipped this level, and 4 hour and H1 noodle are the levels I'd be looking at. More so H4, because you see there's a lot of chop. Once again, looking at the levels it respects, You can also draw out the key like flip points for pump. It actually got rejected. And there's another level here, rejected, and another level here. So these are your horizontal levels. So you're looking for confluence with horizontals and a moving average. So a flip of this zone would be extremely bullish for pump and probably trigger, trying to find the indicator here, probably trigger an entry. Something like this, a sweep, reclaim, and then a breakout. This is probably the trade I'd take on pump. But until it flips this zone here, I wouldn't long on pump. Basically, I'm just saying, and this is basically, good advice for any coin in the market, just long strength in the market. We're in a market where it's actually not too complicated. Bitcoin, in a way, I know executing's harder than, easier said than not, but Bitcoin and ETH are likely going to keep going up. Cool. What you're trying to do is outperform. You're trying to be in plays that are going to go up more than Bitcoin and ETH. What do? You track their relative strength and you track the trends. If the trend looks good versus the USD pair, like I've just shown you a few examples, you can long the coin as long as it has narrative alignment. And also look for confluence with the Ethereum and Bitcoin pair as well to make sure that you are in the, a coin that's actually going to outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum, because that's really, really important. I'll just answer a few more questions. Do you still have CHEX in your portfolio? I do. The weighting is definitely smaller now. There were, and I spoke about this in Discord a few times, there were a couple invalidations, like the breakdown. I'll actually chart it for you because I think this is good to know. Let me try and get the right chart. I think the right chart's in my trading list, actually. Down here, Uniswap. So it actually did respond off a key level. So if you go into the weekly, this is actually the first level I ever bought at. Obviously, it ended up going on a massive pump, which was pretty crazy. Fortunately, I didn't TP at the top. I wish I did, but I did have a couple levels I wanted to show you. Okay, so there were a few. I want to show you how invalidation looks like, because we always talk about validation, aka when to buy, but no one ever talks as much. I mean, I do on the channel now, but when to sell. There were a couple things. There were two invalidations for CHEX, so I still hold a bag, right? But my bag is smaller than it was. Why? Because it came down, right? I didn't get a chance to invalidate here because on the daily, there was no confirmation. It was too quick. But then it ended up pushing up to a significant resistance level. This was a resistance level on the daily money noodle, and it had confluence as well with a key sticking point here. So the retest level from January and March as well. Once again, just checking to see if my chart's still on the screen, which it is, so we're good. So it actually came down, didn't give you a chance to sell. But on this retest here, in terms of invalidating a position, you want to look at where the key retest happens, and then you want to move down the time frame. It's very difficult for me to do on the laptop, so I'm not going to be able to do it. But then because this lasted for 3 days, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 days, you move down to the 4 hour. That essentially gives you 18 candles, right, on the 4 hour, if you do the math. 18 candles to make a decision, moving down from the higher time frame to the lower time frame on invalidating. And if it's reaching a resistance level on a high time frame zone, and then it's starting to also break down on a low time frame, then you would know to cut. And that's one of the cuts that I made was around this zone. And then the secondary cut I made was in this zone here. Very similar price action, with price breaking down a key lower time frame support and then coming back up. On that pump, I also remember de-risking a little bit. And this was also, I believe, at the same time that we had I was doing a general portfolio de-risk due to the tariff. Not tariff, sorry. That was in April. The geopolitical stuff, the Middle Eastern stuff, right? That was just as that was brewing. I de-risked my, a bit. I spoke about this on YouTube, like across the board. And, it's ended up bleeding out since then. So what you want to see for a recovery trade here is you want to see it starting to flip this daily noodle. That's the first thing. That's the very, very first step for CHEX to make a recovery. Until then, I'm not longing because I don't like catching knives. Although, just keep in mind that it is at a key support zone between 9 cents and 10 cents. So if you are fundamentally bullish, and I still hold a bag because I think there are fundamentals here that could see it make a recovery, you could look at adding in this zone. Just personally, I've been talking this entire stream about looking for strength. This doesn't look like a strong chart for me. So I'd rather long my winners and tokens that are looking good. And then if this starts to make a reversal, then I'll consider it. One that actually looks a lot better is CPOOL. So if you are going to take a trade on an RWA coin that I've spoken about in the past, I think ClearPool looks a lot better. I actually have started laddering into an even bigger position as we go closer to the daily, because this is also one where at some point I had taken some money off the table. Can't remember exactly where. I don't want to speak out of my ass, but either at some point on the pump or the breakdown. What I would look at doing on CPOOL is also longing this noodle zone. So it's between 14 cents and 15 cents. I believe they've actually got some good stuff coming. So this would be the next zone to target, not only shorter term trade to 19 cents, but also higher, because as I said, there's some fundamental catalysts coming that I like here. So this is also one that, and it's also bounced nicely off the weekly, and it's coming into a major resistance. So that's why I'm looking to bid pullbacks. But if it can flip the 18-cent level, there's not a lot stopping it from repricing to 30 cents really quick. So for me, CPOOL actually looks better than CHEX purely from a technical perspective. And I think that does make sense due to there being more of a narrative around it right now. So that is basically my analysis there. Hype cool off, sell or buy. Let me look at Hyperliquid quickly. Hyperliquid's very expensive from an FDV perspective, and the narrative certainly has cooled. Although technically it is into the noodle, which, I mean, it's held since April. And you also have this confluence here as well, which was a resistance, now a support zone. I would be greedy on Hype because the valuation has such a premium attached, and I've started to see a little bit of a narrative cool off. I would look to target more so this zone in here and be a bit greedier and see how close you can get to $40. And then I would have an invalidation below $40. So if it starts to break below, you move from the daily to the lower time frames, and then you start to see how it's reacting. If you get a bearish thrust, like we discussed on the CHEX chart, then you could potentially target a lower zone for Hyperliquid, which will probably actually be the base of one of the initial rallies here at $30. So that is my plan with Hype. It's a long, but with the propensity to cut that long if we start to break below 40. But due to its inflated valuation, I'm not itching to get into that trade. Whereas I think still coins like PENGU, ENA, Fluid, I think they still have more upside given the narrative is highly skewed and aligned towards ETH right now. Let me just go through some more questions, and then I'm going to get my research on for a research section. I want to talk about one thing, actually, and this is something I'm going to go short today because I'm putting out a video on this tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if not already, or following the Twitter if you're watching on Twitter or X now, because I'm going to do a video on this tomorrow in a bit more depth. But one thing that still makes me confident that altcoins are still going to go up, and the whole reason why I'm looking for longs and not shorts, even if I'm looking for longs on pullbacks, is because I think Bitcoin, I'm pretty confident, ends up breaking out at some point later in the year or early next year, has always been my prediction, but I'm going to say later in the year based on the current timeframes of the moves. And if that occurs, I think ETH is the most logical catch-up trade for Bitcoin. Why? Because Ethereum has been lagging Bitcoin and is seen by a lot of retail and institutions as the obvious catch-up play. So when Bitcoin went from 110 to 120, ETH rallied from 2.4 to 3.8, heavily outperforming as we saw ETF inflows skew more towards Ethereum than Bitcoin. This is proof to me that it's viewed in the market as a catch-up trade, and it's still lagging Bitcoin by a significant amount if you look at its current valuation versus percentage to Bitcoin all-time high. So the higher Bitcoin, I think we can assert, right, that the higher Bitcoin goes, the bigger the ETH catch-up. So if this is the case, can you imagine what happens to Ethereum once Bitcoin hits 150K, 140K? Like, I think, we're saying easily 5 to 6K plus on ETH. And ETH is the number one leader of the alts. So a strong Ethereum, we've seen it over the past couple of weeks, makes all the strongest alts explode. So if we see Bitcoin at 150, we see ETH at 5 to 6, definitely breaks its high and squeezes higher. And thus we see a big rally on alts going down the risk curve. So, or up the risk curve, however you want to visualize it. So I think structurally, the reason why I'm looking for altcoin longs in the market on the strongest alts and not shorts is because of this. I still think this money flow effect is going to be the trigger for higher altcoin prices. But you have to be wary because that is how you see blow-offs in the market. Once Bitcoin reaches the top and then liquidity goes crazy into alts, that equals the blow-off top. So this is kind of like your last-ish chance to position. I'm not trying to insert FOMO here because you're going to have dips over the next month or two. This might not happen until really later in the year, and we're still in July, right? But this is your last period, I think, to position, or at least get your list together of the coins that you would like to long, try and get entries on them. Even if it's Bitcoin at 115, try and get an entry if that's part of your plan. And then ride this final leg of the cycle, because after the final leg, we know what happens. Big blow-offs typically lead to big sell-offs and consolidations, aka bear markets. So we are late in terms of the overall cycle, but we're probably early to this rotation. And that's, I just want to give some justification fundamentally for why I'm looking for longs and not looking to sell into these altcoin pumps just yet. Obviously taking profits as I have opportunities to take profits to get some liquidity back, but looking to continue to maintain on the long side of the market. I will chart Fluid. I'm getting asked about that. This was actually one of my best calls from MHC. If you look at Fluid, I'm just interested where I actually called this for the first time from Mars Deutscher. Yeah, it was this. I called this in my general alpha channel. Where, as you can see here, I said Fluid looks like a good long. This was $3.90, as you can see here on the breakout. Very similar setup to Syrup from the other day, by the way. So this is why I keep talking about the noodle. This was 8-hour noodle. 8-hour noodle flip in line with a horizontal and a diagonal flip, and then it ended up making a higher high. So you have 3 triggers to get in. These setups I absolutely love, and the good thing is there are lots of these kind of setups in the market now. And then once it broke out, I moved to the lower time frame for subsequent trades. So that was an amazing one from the Discord. Roughly a 2x. If you do want to join the Discord, that's where I post my earliest alpha. So link in the description below. Come be a part of the community. It's amazing. Me and the other 5 analysts all do an amazing job. We have something for everyone there. Obviously, me on my fundamentals, the analysts on their trading, Paradise, who you're going to see a lot more of in the future. He's an amazing low time frame trader. And then we have Morin and Doc as our more high time frame swing traders. Do degens a little bit in the group as well. And then we have Cruz on airdrops and DeFi farming yield opportunities. So, and Fabian, of course, can't forget him on the more small cap / fundamental focused alpha. He has an amazing read on the market. He's the guy that called, this is Fabian, launch coin at 17 mil before it went to 350 mil. So absolutely crazy, like almost cycle defining trade for him. And yeah, if you want alpha from any of the analysts I just mentioned, including myself, come be a part of the Mars High Club, link in the description below. But looking at Fluid here, yeah, you can see my daily chart hasn't changed from my last one. But on the H4, very similar setup. I actually drew this out the other day. This was a base starting to form. We actually had a couple of deviations below the base, but we never actually closed below in the daily. So you might be asking, oh, Mars, if you bought the base, why didn't you de-risk, right? Well, I wouldn't de-risk unless there was confluence with higher time frame and low time frame. Since this level is drawn on the daily, having the 3 major daily wicks / close and then closes above, there was actually no close below that level to add confluence to a de-risk. So I'm still in those entries. And yeah, right now I think it's an okay trade, but the issue is, and I always look at risk reward on trades, right? The issue is your stop gap. So the gap between where you need to place your stop loss and your current long is roughly 9%. So if you're using 3x leverage, this is pretty difficult because anything more than 3x leverage, this is difficult because you're going to basically get liquidated or lose most of your money if you get stopped. So is this a good spot trade? Probably it's an okay spot buy. Why? Because it's 9%. So if you put in 10 grand, you just got to be willing that you might need to cut at 9 grand, or if it starts to lose some momentum, so starts to go up and then lose momentum and then tags this zone, this is your key pivot point, starts to look like this, you might actually choose to cut it in this zone with confluence on the lower time frame on Fluid. So yes, you could long here theoretically if you're looking for a spot entry for the longer term, and this logic's the same for any alt, but just be willing to cut it because it's not the optimal entry. Whereas with the optimal entry, where you have a tighter invalidation, you can go in with bigger size because your stop gap is going to be lower. So that's something, I really want to try and drill into people's heads, that it's not just about fundamentals. It's also about getting the right entry, because it's going to be so much easier to sleep at night and your risk reward is going to be better on the trade if you actually get the right entry. All right, I'm going to bring on, I know there's lots of questions. I'm sorry I can't get to them all because there's many, many, many questions. Morpheus, if you are ready to come on, let me know in the private chat. Just say yes. And if that is the case, then I will bring you onto the stream. Would you also like to share your screen? Do you need to share your screen, Morpheus? If so, maybe add it to the stream yard.
Yeah, I believe so. Hey guys, what's up?
Morpheus came on last week. He's the degen. He's the one everyone said was too degen. So just disclaimer, I'm not advocating personally for anything he says. He's his own person. But
okay,
he's going to give some analysis here.
Okay,
his
awesome,
analysis,
Miles.
not mine.
I'm going to shift over.
Then I'll tell you my opinion on it at the end.
Perfect. All right. Okay, let me shift over. Okay, so Miles, everything is working on your end, right? Seeing my screen?
Good.
Okay.
All good.
There's been a big point of discussion over this past week, and Benjamin Cowan, one of the tier 1 foremost analysts in the entire space, he has this thesis, and he's been quite correct as it pertains to how he believes alts will function against ETH. But initially, upon seeing this post, something kind of like struck my eye, and I thought to myself, I'm not exactly sure if his statement is correct. And with all due respect to Benjamin Cohen, I'm just some random anon on the internet. But I want us to look at the following. He says that the only way most old BTC pairs go up with short term, in his honest opinion, is if ETH BTC goes up first. So ETH continues to be a better risk reward than alts. Now, two issues with that. So A, it continues to be a better of an alts based on what conditions? If I had $10 million, sure, $1 million. Sizing also plays a big role here. And if you look at how the others market has bled against Ethereum over the past few weeks, most of these tokens are dead. And the degens, the gamblers, they're not playing these tokens. They're playing new listings. Something's happening on Bybit or something's happening on Binance. And where attention goes, money flows. So basically, again, with all due respect, but I actually believe that whilst Cowan is correct in a sense here, there is a bit of additional logic to add. And I would love to go through it with you guys there, because I think I actually have a few banger setups here. And please tell me in the comments if I'm wrong or whatever, but I actually put in some work and I respect him immensely as an analyst. Please do go and follow him. But I'm coming up with my own statistical background as well, so I hope you enjoy it. So basically, I'm not going to go in too deep as it pertains to like the data and my migration models and whatever I built, but I wanted to kind of like test out the thesis. And let's just look at the core here. Let's not go into the whole technical stuff. That's more of a nerd stuff for me. But Ethereum as a bellwether for altcoin performance, ETH offers better risk reward than altcoins until alt season begins. Bitcoin dominance must peak and decline first, and altcoins bleed against ETH during bearish phases. Now, this is correct. Just going to show you guys like we're actually building something really cool. It's still in its early development stages, but yeah, we're not just lobbing. We want to actually test out the data. But this is what I am looking at. And as I mentioned in the previous show, I'm a breakout trader that is quite degenerate. So please don't listen to anything that I say. It's just the way that I like to trade. And for Confluence, I add high time frame support and resistance levels. So if I'm looking at others ETH and looking at Cowan's thesis here, I'm thinking to myself, and this is like me taking the opposite end here, this area of demand goes back to the 1st of March 2018. And I've seen that when getting a little bit too excited, go like against shorting a multi-year support on high time frame on the monthly, I wouldn't be very comfortable making that bet, to be honest, right now. I think from a technical perspective, would I be short here? No, I would have been short here. I think that was the correct answer. So what we're doing now is we want to find, like what are the best setups in the market, because Cowan's thesis can coincide with ours as well. But yes, most of these alts can bleed out. But how do we find the, what's next to pump, like what could potentially outperform? So basically what we track is and right now, given that the meta has shifted from BTC pairings to ETH pairings, and I'm thinking to myself, but look, where attention goes, money flows. And right now it's, excuse me, PENGU, BONK, ENA, HBAR and XRM is always a bit of a sign of retail coming back, but I'm fading those. And then, yeah, so that's what I'm basically looking at now. But now I want to add some fundamentals here. So we're like, okay, cool, 30. Oh, sorry, I just lost my name, but that's my name anyways. It's Morpheus 30, whatever. But I'm looking at the top performance versus ETH. Okay, so I've got a few setups there. But I also like to approach my trading with a statistical backend or kind of like a framework of sorts. I thought to myself, okay, cool. In the event that ETH does outperform here and starts performing and does break through 4K, it's actually a tweet from Miles here where he's talking about ETH as the catch-up trade. I fully agree here. So like if this is the case and ETH is about a breakout, let's look at the monthly correlations, and it indicates the percentage of the time when, let's say, ETH is green. I'll give you an example. When ETH has been green over the past month, PEPE has been green 90% of the same time. And it's just a fantastic way to add confluence. And also looking here on the narrative tracker from DeFi Llama, lo and behold, what's the first category here? It's meme and Ethereum.
Memes.
Memes in Ethereum. So, okay, we've got the data, we've got the narrative, we've got the thesis. Now let's look at the setups. So PENGU is something that I kind of do like here. I know that it has rallied extensively over the past week. But for me, I'm looking at, you see this resistance here. So it was a massive wick up and got sold off over the past 24 hours. For me, I'm looking at a close anywhere above here. Because the thing is, what I want to see is I want a weekly candle that exceeds the volume of a previous one. And I want to see the close. But ideally, for a breakout long for me here, I want to see strength above 0.047. And I would start building a position over time, targeting that high. I think it's one of the easier setups. Now, let's look at a few others. I also want to chart PENGU.
You're looking at price discovery trading versus because I'm different, because I'll look for base to form, and for example, if your strategy on REKT would make you a lot of money because you get the breakout, just goes up. I missed REKT, but your strategy can lose you a lot of money if we have like a deviation rejection,
or a fake
whereas
out.
Buying my strategy will like handle risk reward a bit better, especially for spot entries. But
absolutely. So the thing is, so
I'm not advocating for this because I don't do it.
No, but it's just my strategy. This is what I'm looking at. So if I'm pairing PENGU versus ETH, this looks fantastic on the weekly. A weekly close for me here would be a sign to start entering and kind of like keeping open a position. And my invalidation would be loss of this high time frame resistance. That's the first one I'm looking at now. BONK, I did see somebody was asking about it, but I don't know, like after this week's performance, you can't fade BONK guy, Uni PCS, but it just doesn't look that attractive to me at all. ENO looks fantastic paired against ETH. This is also something I'm keeping a very close eye on. So guys, personally, for me, it's high time frames and acceptance above high time frames, and that's how I like to play it. SPX is another one that you absolutely need to keep an eye on. It looks fantastic. Murad, cold following, wouldn't fade it.
I actually did a tweet about cold followings. Did you see that tweet?
Yeah, I did. And I actually want to show you guys something else. Also, PEPE, I also saw a comment on that. So one thing to add here as well, if you want to add some mind share, because where crypto is a game where fundamentals is attention. That's how it works. And I'm looking here at now what's happening. I see PENGU, okay, XRP, our army is here. What do I see on the 7-day? I see PEPE. It's always there. PENGU again, DOGE.
And this is on cookie.fun, by the way. I track this pretty much daily.
PEPE, we also have here. So we're looking at a few prime setups personally. And for me, PEPE on the USD ETH. PEPE is a bit of a precarious one right now because PENGU has kind of like taken a bit of a spotlight, although it's not exactly the same concept. But for a very high risk trade here, I would start building a position in PEPE and I'd cut below here. And just one more question on high.
Can I show you why I actually agree with PEPE? Let me show you my chart. Yeah, I'll show you. So this is the PEPE chart here. You can see on the weekly, it actually pushed above its key pivot. And if you look at the lows forming, it's higher lows. This is like some would say it's a weekly bull flag. I don't really trade on flags, but that's a bullish setup. 60% of the time, these break out to the upside. And if you look at the 4-hourly, what I like as well is that you actually have a confluence zone to potentially get an entry. So it did run up pretty aggressively on this zone, but it flipped to the downside. We might be starting to see that flip again. Obviously, this will take a few days to play out, but if you start to see acceptance above and then forming a nice base above, this is on the 4-hourly chart. This level here, this for me would be a trigger to go long and then look for a play in the short term up to the weekly. And then if we go back to the weekly chart, that entry should set you up pretty well to ride this to all-time highs. So that's a potential setup on PEPE forming right now. The other setup, if we don't get that 4-hourly flip, and let's say we end up coming back down, remember, in trading, you always want to have two scenarios. I would long a retest of this weekly zone at the 1-1 level. So those are the two scenarios I'd be looking at for an entry on PEPE personally.
Yeah.
Back to you, Morpheus.
There's just one more that I want to illustrate. Somebody was also talking about hype. So hype has been an absolutely fantastic trade. But when I look at the chart right now, I want to see two things. I want to see an altcoin that's outperforming Bitcoin, and I want to see an altcoin that's outperforming Ethereum. And then I also want to see an altcoin that is outperforming the entirety of the altcoin market. So if I look back, and I think Paradise also mentioned in the stream a few days ago that $50 psychological resistance number, I initially had a look at the trade. There was an attempt at a breakout. Unfortunately, it failed. But I'm not exactly sure if I would be a buyer of hype right now.
Yeah, I just said that. Yeah, it needs to go to 40, and then if it does, you need to be willing to cut quick because there's $32 pretty soon afterwards. There's a big gap in the volume nodes.
Agreed. And also here, it's not looking too fantastic on the ETH chart as well. So, like, I mean, if you're willing to kind of like start building a position here with a hope that it does hold, it's again a high risk, but it's not the most optimal setup. And finally,
does this not validate exactly what I was saying earlier? Like earlier in the stream, I said, look, guys, alts are strong, but every strong altcoin dips. So that's why I'm seeing people like, oh, I need to buy REKT. I need to buy REKT. It's the same with hype. Everyone was saying hype. And now hype's starting to go down. So what you'll see in the market is, yes, over a macro point of view, hype will probably keep outperforming, right? Because it's in a macro uptrend. But there are micro periods in the market where it will be weaker compared to other coins. And those are the periods to look at building a position instead of FOMOing into stuff at the top. That's my that's my take. I think hype's a good example of that, right? But that technically, I'd follow the plan I outlined earlier. You can go back after the video and look at that plan at the $40 zone, and then looking at that as a pivot point, and then potentially 32 next.
All right, cool, man. I was glad to be able to share my alpha again. I would advise.
So basically, to summarize, what you're saying is, and this is something I agree with, if this is correct, Cowan might be correct about ETH outperforming the alt index, but what he's not accounting for is the fact that there are betas to Ethereum that will likely outperform if you're positioned in the right areas.
That is absolutely correct. His thesis is correct, but I believe
it's not nuanced.
It's not nuanced. I believe it's too rigid, and I think, with great respect, I think from a statistical perspective, he needs to add one more element. And that is relative ETH outperformance in the market right now. As ETH is the king shitcoin, if it moves, the base players will move fast. And yeah, thanks guys, appreciate it.
I'm getting someone asking, and then I'm going to bring on my next researcher about KTA. This was a really strong one at one point. I haven't charted this in a while, so just let me get my bearings. Yeah, on the daily, I'll just delete this for clarity. On the daily, it actually just broke out. So once again, we'll move down the time frames a little bit. There has been a few periods on the H4 that it's actually come and rejected, so I wouldn't long here. I'm just going to see if there's any confluence with the Noodle, but there probably won't be because Noodle doesn't do well in choppy markets. It's good in trending markets. This has the potential to become a trending market, but it's not yet. This is not really a trend. I mean, it's a bit of an uptrend since June, but it's still relatively sideways and hasn't actually broken. So tricky one because I think you need to pull back. What I would look for is, yes, the strength is starting to come back. What I would look for is actually price to come back down into this zone, form a higher low, and then start to come back up like this. And what you can actually do, and I recommend everyone does this, is you can look up KTA USDT / ETH USDT and start to look at the pairings between ETH and KTA. So this is a good observation because assuming this chart's correct, you can see like this level, it bounced off. It is heading into a little bit of resistance on the daily noodle. On the 12 hours, well, which is, half a day, you can see it started to break out a little bit, but it's not in an uptrend yet. So that is why I would only long a pullback, or I would wait. The other option is, okay, let's say, it doesn't get a pullback. What you can do is you can actually wait for the trend to establish above the previous wick and then look to get in on pullbacks after that, because at least then you're confirming it's in an uptrend as opposed to trying to, catch a knife. Someone said, let the guy that you brought on to finish his thoughts stop interrupting. Do you have any more thoughts, Morpheus?
No, I don't. No, No, the last 30 seconds of my time. Personally, I think one of the best strategies that you can implement as a trader is to learn how to identify resistance and support or areas of demand or areas of interest. Because the higher the time frame from a statistical perspective, the more accurate the price action. So I do like to base my plays and actions and invalidations on high time frame perspectives, and then entries I use 4 hour. So yeah, that would be my offer.
All right. Great. All right. Mo, you ready to come on? It's low cap alpha time. I'm going to give the same disclaimer I gave last week. Once again, these aren't my trades, so I'm not responsible for anything Mo speaks about, although I think there are a couple that I agree with him on. I'll let you know if that's the case. Keep in mind, these are higher risk. So these are on-chain plays now that obviously come with more risk than, Sui or PENGU or some of the other coins we've spoken about. So just keep that in mind. And with that out of the way, Mo, welcome back. You're on mute, but once you're on mute, they'll hear you.
Hey, what's up, guys? Nice to be back. And let me also
have you back.
Yeah, pretty good. Let me also quickly share my screen so I can go over the different.
Have you got some degen stuff for us today?
I think, especially at the last part, I think I have some really filthy stuff for you guys. So
Love it.
let's see if the guys.
Let's see.
You've got some sub 10 mo gems, sub 5 mo.
Sub 5 more, yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
disgusting.
High risk disclaimer. High risk disclaimer.
Yeah.
Not financial
So,
advice.
Let me quickly see if I can share my screen over here. This window. Yes, share. Okay, great. Can you guys see my screen?
Still not. Let me see at the stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Mo, Mo, can you speak? All good?
Yeah, all good on my side.
Cool.
So the first coin which I had is this American Party coin. It's basically a meme coin that represents Elon Musk, American, well, at least Elon Musk's political party that he launched in July, so a few weeks ago, basically quite recently. And yeah, the whole premise of this is that this meme coin is basically piggybacking this new political movement of Musk. And people do expect that he's going to tweet much more about this because he's also quite serious about this, to be honest.
Is
and
he?
The reason he's really serious about this, yeah. He also said something about using Bitcoin for, I'm not really sure what, but he's also planning to do something with Bitcoin for this American party. So he's really serious. And of course, the reason why he's so serious, because at least he was first a Democrat, right? Then he became a Republican. And since recently, he had also some beef with Trump, where Trump basically mentioned on socials that he's going to cut some funding for Tesla. And he then accused Trump of being in the Epstein files and stuff like that. So it was really nasty. Let me say it like that. And yeah, on the premise of that, he basically launched his own party. And I think a lot of people in the US, could basically maybe support this because, Trump is such an extreme figure, right? And a lot of people don't necessarily lean right. They don't necessarily, support everything that Trump says. But on the other side, you have basically the lefties that also don't have really a great representation. So this American party seems to try to establish itself as a center party, right? Let me quickly share my screen, or at least it was already shared.
It is shared,
Yeah. So now basically coming back to this meme coin, right? I think within our space, we know that Elon Musk, basically everything that the guy likes or that he supports is basically going like crazy price-wise. For example, Dogecoin, of course, that run to almost 100 billion last cycle. And a few months ago with Peanut, and a little bit more recently with the whole AI companion craze that we saw. I think some of us also purchased Annie and Valentine, if I'm correct, right, Miles?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, I bought some. Annie was very good. I think I've TP'd initials and I'm doing well. I don't know where Valentine is. I think it wasn't as good.
Yeah, it's correcting a little bit. Let me say it like that. But I'm still bullish for that on that one. So these plays don't, how do you say, play out immediately. So sometimes you just need to hold them for a few weeks. Or a few days.
Valentine. I think from memory is the only one I've TP'd on.
Okay.
I think. Let me just put it that way because I can't remember exactly. I do a lot of trading. Annie, I definitely took my initials. America Party. This one I actually did buy some. So you told me about it a couple days ago. I bought some.
So basically,
this one.
Like I mentioned, Elon Musk is really serious about this. So I do expect him to tweet much more about this, and we know that everything that the guy is basically supporting does extremely well within our space. So that's the first reasoning. The second one is basically that there was another coin, I think maybe a few months ago, DOGE. This was basically the argument that Elon Musk was running for Trump, and we saw that this coin run from I think around 10 million to almost 500 million, right? So it had just a crazy spike up. And now we have basically another opportunity, in my opinion, with a party that is run by Elon Musk. So in my opinion, this is much better than the whole DOG thing.
Basically, you want to rerun the trade, just like a better iteration of it.
Exactly.
Like exactly. Got you. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. The only thing is, back then, the whole Politify meme, at least Meta, was really a thing. So it had much more attention than right now. But I still think that basically it's, how do you say it? It's a party that's run by Elon Musk. And
also the risk is he goes, like, is the last time he spoke about it July 5th? I know that's an older tweet. Has he mentioned it recently? Because I guess the risk is he backs off the idea because he's pretty like all over the place. Like he'll be Tesla, then he'll be SpaceX, then he'll be Twitter, then X, then he'll be like, is he really going to do a party? Like it seems pretty busy.
I haven't seen the last few days. He at least he didn't really speak about American Party, to be honest, in the last few days. But it seems like he's really serious about this. I need maybe to do some more deep dive in the most recent tweets, to be honest. But that's maybe another confidence point that we should maybe look into. Another thing why I'm really bullish on this one, to be honest, is because I like to use a tool which is called Nansen, and basically it provides a little bit more insight about what's happening with basically people buying and selling this coin, right? And we see a lot of, well, at least the top 100 addresses are really bullish on this one. So the gray represents the price action of American Party, and the yellow represents what holders are doing right now. And we can clearly see that they're buying a lot. And they're really bullish on this one. Also, we can clearly see a lot of healthy amount of smart money. And these guys are usually great traders. For example, we see that smart money was very early at this before it spiked. So that's usually a great sign to look at. And now they're basically just holding. So like you said, Miles, maybe he didn't really mention American Party in the last few days on his socials. But the moment that happens...
I just double-checked. It's been over a week, Yeah,
exactly. But still, the on-chain data looks really strong with this one. Another thing, you see a lot of smart money holding this. So usually when you only see one or two, that's maybe not the greatest sign because these guys could also just be gambling, of course. But you see actually a lot of smart money in this coin, which is a great sign. Also some healthy amount of whales, which is always a good sign. And the interesting thing to me is that we see that the exchange, basically balances, are, well, almost 90% down, right? And this means basically that there are no tokens left on DEXs, like, for example, Uniswap, and, for example, centralized exchanges like MEXC. And I mean, why would that happen? Would that basically happen because, of course, the reasoning behind that is that people are buying this stuff, right? And why would they buy this coin? Because they do plan maybe to push this at a certain moment. They're not going to buy up the supply because they think they're going to rock the coin. So that's another thing which I really like to see. So
Yep.
yeah, that's basically everything from my side on American Party, and also the reason is why I'm bullish on this one.
One thing to add there to American Party, I think one point of data that you can potentially infer, especially as it pertains to the exchange section. Just go back to Nansen, please.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, there's a bit of a meme whenever you'll see it on like X, people would say, oh, but the balance on the exchange is decreasing. Like there's a few reasons why that potentially could be happening. Like people are just withdrawing. But what is interesting for me, like you can see two things here. Either there's not enough tokens for all these kind of like sexes right now, because I understand also during the market making process, it needs to, there's a wallet that needs to be topped up. Like there are communications with the team and the market makers and the back end process. But what is interesting is why people would take this coin and transfer to an on-chain wallet. Why would you hold this if you can dump it on SEX with sufficient enough liquidity? That is something interesting to me, and like we should look at that. But I don't see any other data to point out here.
Yeah, exactly.
I think basically to summarize, in my opinion, because I bought some, so this is my theory. If he's serious about going ahead with it, which we don't know with Musk, then this will do really well.
Exactly.
It'll probably go to the old highs and above, right? But he hasn't tweeted recently.
Exactly.
So if
and the guy
this
basically
falls,
everything that the guy supports or tweets about,
yeah,
it's really bullish. Yeah.
Right now, this is just speculation that he'll come back and talk about it. Then it will explode. Yeah. But if not, people could lose confidence.
Exactly. But also from the perspective, I mean, of course, you guys are much better traders than I am, but it seems to be.
But you can't really do TA on chain coins as well, to be honest. It's mostly such.
Yeah,
sexes. It doesn't work as well. It's still good, but not as well.
That's also true, but I still feel like that we have somehow found a bottom over here, and we see some high highs forming. So it does give a little bit more confidence, in my opinion, that at least we maybe found a floor at these levels. So which makes it for me a great risk to reward play to basically, buy something at these levels. So that's basically everything that I have for American Party. Let me go to the second one, and that's basically this coin over here, Broccoli. I'm not sure if you guys still remember this.
This was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's what people want, right? So basically, making a long story short, BNB is basically right now doing extremely well. I mean, the token price sits at almost $800. I mean, that's just crazy. It's one of the only major big caps that's basically performing this well and was able to basically put a new high, which is, in my opinion, just a great sign. Also, if we look at basically the on-chain side of things, we see that actually there are a lot of new users coming to BSC, which is also a great sign because, BNB gets a lot of accusations of manipulating prices and stuff like that. And but this data actually shows that there are a lot of people really using BSC and also actually using the token, which is a great sign. So in my opinion, when BNB is going to heat up like it's doing right now, eventually some of its memes are also going to benefit. And one of those is this one, Broccoli. So basically it's just the pet of CZ. And back in February, I believe, everybody on X was basically hyping the launch, and everybody was basically waiting for him to drop the sticker. And eventually he did, and there were just a bunch of, eventually he did. And there were basically just a bunch of scams going all over the place with trying to get this,
brownie, and I remember this,
Yeah. The interesting thing with this one is, again, from a on-chain view, I like how the price is basically moving like this. So it's consolidating right now, and we see a lot of accumulation happening, which is a great sign in my opinion.
Why have you picked? People are going to be like, stop cutting off.
Yeah.
This is an important question. Why have you picked this Broccoli over the one on Binance, which is the bigger one, which is a 4x in market cap?
Yeah.
Why this one?
This one you mean? So the thing is, this
one has
was
less listings.
this one was listed on Binance, but also delisted, which is very important to, how do you say that, to mention. And the thing is, I've been, how do you say that, in the TGs of both, and I'm actually, how do you say that, keeping on track with what's happening with these two coins. And yeah, like I mentioned, this one managed to basically get a listing. So I think it was back in March, and also eventually delisted by Binance, which is, in my opinion, a bad sign. Also, I think on this coin, there's so much more sell pressure. So for this coin to basically pull out a 10x, you need to reach $500 million, where this smaller coin only needs
It's not
to...
Brownie's, not Brownie. Broccoli's not delisted on Perps though.
Exactly. Perps not, but on spot. It was also listed
So
on
it
spot.
was it on spot? Was it on
Yeah,
spot?
this one was on spot.
That's quite
So
interesting.
both of them are basically trading on perps, but this one was added to spot because, well, it's just a very long story. There was a competition going on, and they managed to basically win that competition, maybe by just botting the results. So they managed to get the listing, and eventually they were delisted. And the other one has never been able to get a listing, but they are trading on perps, like you mentioned.
How's the? But why would this come back? That's what I'm interested to know.
Yeah. So of course we know that, for example, so it's CZ's bet, and we know that this meta, this narrative, is really attractive within our space. Why do I know that? For example, on Coinbase, let me quickly look the chart up. We have DOGE, which is the cat of Brian Armstrong. That is basically Brian Armstrong. For the people that don't know him, he's the CEO of Coinbase, and he has a pet, and that pet is basically named DOGE, which is a cat, and that coin run to almost 1 billion. And now we have the same thing actually playing out with the dog of CZ, so the pet of CZ, and BNB is actually heating up right now. So I do expect that eventually this is going to be repriced to the upside, especially I see at least some consolidation happening over here. And like I mentioned, BNB is actually really heating up right now. Another thing, and that's maybe something, because I've been keeping on track of these two coins, I know for a fact that these guys know how to manipulate volume. So why do I say that?
They do.
Yeah, they know how to do that, because back, I think a few months ago, this coin was trading at around maybe, the same levels, 40 million, 10 million. And their rep volume was more than 300 million. So that's pretty crazy. Also, this spike over here was basically, there was no news announced, there was nothing. They just pushed the price. They just pushed the price like this because they wanted. So, in my opinion, this shows that the group behind this coin actually knows what they are doing, actually knows how to basically push the price with much less seller pressure than this coin. So that's why.
When's the last time it pumped? Just go back on. It was like end of May, early June, end of May.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a while. But again, I mean, the thing is with these meme coins, just something needs to be happening with, for example, Binance, basically launching a new campaign to boost meme coins on chain or stuff like that. And we've seen that meme coins are basically, on Sol doing extremely well, and also on user activity basis, they're just attracting a lot of users. So I think eventually there's going to be a season 2 of meme coins on Binance. So that's the whole reasoning behind this one. Let me quickly go to the next one, and that's basically something on the PENGU chain. Let me quickly refresh my chain. I think all of us are pretty bullish on the Pudgy Penguins, and they're also basically going to launch their own chain, which is Upsurf chain. It's another L2. I'm not necessarily a fan of L2s or something like that, but they're going to do an airdrop, and usually when they're going to do an airdrop, it just attracts a lot of interest to the chain. So we right now do have the Pudgy Penguins, and on Abstract chain, there's right now another meme coin, which is a top meme right now on the whole Abstract chain, which is called Abster, and it sits at around yeah, 35 million. Does anyone know this meme coin of you guys?
Yeah, I've seen
Oh.
it. Yeah.
First time for me.
Yeah. So yeah, a good. So the of course we don't know yet how much. Well, we don't know yet what the valuation is going to be of the whole Abstract chain. So that's something that's basically right now in the known for us.
And this is the second biggest meme on Abstract.
It's the biggest one.
Well, apart
This
from
is the big-
Pudgy, which isn't maybe not.
Yeah,
technically on
of course. If you want to include
Yeah,
Pudgy,
yeah.
but I do see.
By the way,
Pudgy as-
just so people know, Abstract was created by Igloo Inc., who are the parent company of Pudgy. This is their chain, and REKT is also I think the biggest token on Abstract as another brand coin, like Pudgy, and then this is the biggest meme right now.
Interesting.
Just to give people a summary.
Yeah. So right now this coin is basically trading at 35 million. And yeah, we don't know what the valuation is going to be of Abstract chain, but we know that Pudgies have the FTV of around 4 billion. So if we maybe could use some of this data to give a valuation to Abster, I think this has still some upside level, because usually these coins tend to trade at around maybe 5% or 10% of the valuation of the chain. So if, let's say, Abstract chain is going to have a valuation similar to Pudgy's, we could see this maybe trading at around 200 million or maybe 400 million. Again, it's been up quite a lot, so this one is maybe riskier right now, and maybe it's much better to basically wait for a pullback. But I think, yeah, as one of the main memes on the chain, this one has definitely, in my opinion, some more upside to go.
And has the team, anyone on the team or from the Luca or anyone like supported or interacted with this meme specifically?
Not specifically, but I do have another one which they have interacted with, and it's at a much lower market cap.
Okay. I'm listening.
So yeah, it's this one. It's sitting at around 1.2 million
Degen.
market cap. Yeah, extremely degen. And
Wow,
the
that's good.
thing is, they actually, because Luca, for the people that don't know him, he is basically the CEO or the founder of the whole Pudgy Penguins, and he basically followed this meme. And Bandit is basically just the dog of Luca. So it's the name of the dog of Luca.
Everyone's pet gets a coin now.
Yeah, these guys, I don't even know how the fuck they know this stuff. I mean, that's very impressive, right? But
like if you're super degen, I can see a quick 4x here. I can see it. It's not important. Yeah, like maybe like if you're like, you can't ape like 10 or 50 or 100K. No. Not financial advice, but like if you're really digging into the trenches, the meta has been established, and like the cabal, that's always kind of like working in the background, they know how to work these things. So, you know, if it's Luca Netstock, even though that's completely redacted, it is a well-established meme and a concept.
Exactly.
Across many blockchains.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, I mean, Abstract chain is going to do its airdrop. So usually all of the different memes on the chain are going to get some more exposure, or at least are going to go get some more interest. And like I mentioned, Luca basically followed this meme. I'm not sure if he's still following them, because last time I checked, it seemed like he unfollowed them. So that's maybe something strange. But yeah, he at least know that that this meme coin does exist, which is really bullish in my opinion. So yeah, basically closing with this micro cap over here. I think that's all the stuff which I had for today. And yeah, I know this one is really decent. So please bear in mind, this is basically just gambling, guys. So yeah. So yeah, that's it from my side.
The only one I bought is AP. These two, I've got to look into more. I'm just doing some grok research actually. Have any of the bits interacted with? I'm just doing I'm just asking grok to source tweets on Abster. I do this a lot. This is a bit of an alpha tip for you guys. If you want to research a coin, like go onto grok, I'll show you what I'm doing. Basically just asking it to source tweets. It's very good at it. Just asking to see if Luca or Finn or Abstract has ever interacted with Abster. The connection to the other one, the Bandit one, is the Luca follows them still. Does he still follow them?
Yeah. So last time I checked, it doesn't seem like he's still following them, to be honest.
He unfollowed them.
It's been a while ago. So, but at least he's aware of this meme coin.
Oh, he follows so many accounts. It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay. I would need to look on Grok to see if he does. What's their Twitter? I'll do it now. Bandit. Oh, he does follow them.
Oh, really?
Seems like Doozy Doe says so. Just need to confirm it. It'd be cool to see on screen.
It's very risky
the
stuff,
ban.
guys, because
Yeah.
Just keep in mind it's very risky, but he does follow. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here because we wanted to actually do sub 1 hour and we're already at an hour 20. But thank you guys for joining as usual. We're gonna do this next Sunday. This will be like a regular Sunday thing. The plan in the future is also to get some more guests on. We didn't really have time to coordinate it properly this week, but the plan is to establish this as a regular cadence and then actually start getting some like small cap gem hunters on. So we have a list of like good small cap guys who are going to come on hopefully starting next week and kind of run this like a more of like a Sunday degen live stream / Q&A. So thank you guys for joining. Remember, if you haven't already, I want to give you a reminder, make sure to register for the Bitget competition because you could win some pretty nice prizes if our team does well. So good luck to everyone trading. First step is first link in the description. Just register for an account. As soon as you have an account, you get the $20 airdrop. Then you can click the second link and this will enable you to join my team. And then we're going to be trading over the next, I believe it's 16 days. So I'll be sharing some trades in Mars High Club. Well, all the trades first in Mars High Club. I'll be sharing some on YouTube and then some on Telegram as well. So make sure to do that. I will see you guys in the next one. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Peace out.